Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Recollection Step, a Grand Archive TCG podcast, part of the Maindeck podcast family. I'm Dan.
And I'm Taylor. And today we're going to be talking about Ascent Taipei. It just happened this last weekend. It was the biggest Grand Archive tournament to date at 236 players, I think. So we're going to go into the results from that. It's the first big tournament of Mercurial Heart season as well. So our first time kind of seeing the new cards in action and the new Recollection decks in action, and at least at a large, like, really high stakes event. So we're going to get into that. Before we do, we're going to go over kind of the news and stuff as well. We had a few big news items over the past couple weeks that we'll get into. And before all that, Dan, how have you been?
I've been good, Taylor. I've been really good. How have you? How have you been? How have things been going in your world?
Oh, they've been great. I've been playing water decks nonstop. Just Water Merlin, Water Nico, Water Polcock, Water Lorraine, Water Tony. I've got some more champions to hit before I'm done, and then I'm just going to cycle them back. So,
yeah, you're really trying to get some good use out of that Sabrina that she got, huh?
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I have, of course, been playing SILVIE, lots of SILVIE. We did. Let's see. This is going to go out. This is just going to go out tomorrow, so we can talk about. I have played Water SILVIE now. Completed my round of the SILVIE Elemental Tour.
That's the one water champion I probably won't play.
That's okay. I'm going to be honest with you. I think I had an interesting build. I think there are some interesting things, and I think there are some powerful cards in that deck. Oh my god, I can't remember her name. The girl riding dolphins.
The tamer, ringside tamer.
Seaside ringleader. Seaside ringleader.
There we go.
Ringside sea leader. Seaside ringleader.
No, I like ringside sea leader.
Seaside ringleader was a standout to me. I felt like that card was actually like performing really, really well. I was running Primordial Ritual in that list. So I think I will have still a profile for that, with the caveat at the start that, like, this is the less competitive of the tamer lists. So maybe have that out next week. We've got a few other video ideas cooking here, but just for the podcast listeners, my brief take on that is that so that build was very good at putting stuff in the way of allies, but struggled to put out quite as much aggression as the other two. The fire deck, of course, being, well, and that all makes sense too, but the fire deck could just power out storm slimes really fast. The wind deck could sometimes put those out pretty fast, and other times attacked with like 8/8s really easily too. And the water deck kind of screwed around for a while and healed itself. And it still had some like threatening bears. I was playing bear in that list because I put in bear, and I swear I try so hard to remember the name of this card, and I never can think of it, but the one that gives a taunt from Fraction.
Ocean's Blessing.
Ocean's Blessing. I feel so embarrassed that Taylor remembers that name and not me. But, I was playing Ocean's Blessing in there to mill with Primordial Ritual, or to slap onto bears or slimes, whatever. You can put it on anything. Doesn't really matter. No. I did find the self mill was pretty cool. It did work for getting Gaia's Blessing online. I like that. It just kind of felt like everything it did, it didn't have anything that rocketed it ahead of the like shenanigans that wind gives you with Reclaim and your storm slimes and Academy Guide. I still love Academy Guide, and I'm so bad at card names tonight. Level
You're
up,
struggling.
Level up wins, not favorable wins. We were literally just talking about this card, Taylor.
The level up? No, we weren't.
Yeah, it's a card you play. You materialize a card. You materialize.
Oh, you mean Verdant Scepter? No,
It goes in your deck.
Beseech the Winds.
Beseech the Winds.
What do you?
I don't know. Look,
I mean, know. Yeah, technically, that is a level up card. Okay.
Yeah. I promise I know what's going on in this game. Taylor and I literally were just like looking through. We looked through like 6 or 7 Taipei lists and talked about a million cards, and my brain just
apparently that was enough to completely just turn Dan to mush.
Yeah, shattered at that point, and I couldn't remember any card names whatsoever. But anyway, I now remember. Yeah. I think Beseech the Winds and Academy Guide and stuff. Like there are just so many strong plays in the Wind deck. Let alone just the fact that you play Green Slime and Zephyr and Reclaim, and that just gets nutty. So, yeah, my ultimate take is Water is a playable one. If you really like Water, you can totally play this deck. I just don't think it's going to see top cuts where Slime Spirit has already from Taipei. Fire got close and Wind got close to making top 8. They were both Fire, I think, a little closer than they were both actually pretty close at the end of it. But but yeah, that's I guess that's my current take on things. I'm also messing around with some other things because I do have to help the Maindeck team practice for Chicago a little bit. So we've got a few other decks that we're looking at and working on. You may or may not see profiles for those. It basically depends on what we think of them after testing them a whole bunch. So
yeah. I mean, that's the thing is like right now the meta just feels very wide open. Even with the results from Taipei coming in, it feels like there's just a lot of unexplored territory at the moment and a lot of things to still kind of figure out how certain cards work and if they're actually good or not, and where we can go from there. So it's very nice that we've had one big tournament and then the meta does not feel solved. So
yeah,
bodes really good things for the season, I think.
That if this is the only card game you play, that is not always the case with card games. There are certain developers that are historically not great at that job, and you'll see a top cut, and the top cut is like literally all the same deck.
Yeah, I mean, I'll throw out a card game under the bus because one of our locals is really getting into Grand Archive now because he feels like his card game is very much doing that. And so, yeah, definitely.
I thought you were going to actually say the name of the card game.
I was going to, and then I'm not going to. We don't need that much negativity on the podcast, I think.
All right, that's fair. There are card games, and it happens from time to time. And I'm not saying it's impossible for it to happen at Grand Archive at some point. I am just saying that so far, each meta, it hasn't. And I don't know. Hopefully it'll continue that way.
I agree. Yep. But yeah, let's jump into the news here. Cause there's quite a few things going on. I think we're going to go kind of, I've got this listed out in our notes document here, Dan. I'm going to go backwards actually through our news.
Oh, okay.
Cause I think I messed up. I put the most exciting thing first. So I'm going to save that for last.
Yeah. So stay tuned for actually exciting news. But first, some boring stuff.
June's banned and restricted list was updated and there were no changes. So you can understand why that's not very exciting. That's not entirely true. There were a couple small changes, but they don't actually result in the legality of cards changing. We had 2 cards added to category 1. We had 2 cards removed from category 1. And let's see, Erupting Rhapsody is still in category 2, so still legal for play.
That was one of the big things we just weren't sure about when we were waiting on this list. We're like, sometimes in the past they've category 2'd a card, basically giving it like a 1-month timer until it gets banned.
Yep.
That could have been the case here, and it was not. And as a reminder for these categories, we have a whole podcast delving into what the different categories mean. But when something's in category 1, it's just be aware that they're looking at the card, but it doesn't mean that it's going to get banned anytime soon. And obviously being in category 2 also doesn't mean that it's going to immediately get banned because Erupting is still legal to play.
Yeah, this is the first time we've had a card moved to category 2 that wasn't moved to category 3 in the very next ban list. So that is noteworthy. Let's see. And then, we had Korhazi Outlook. Or I guess we only had 1 card added. Korhazi Outlook was added to category 1, just kind of as a consideration of the way that, disincentivizes people from interacting in games, since it just shuts down everything your opponent can do on your turn. And then they removed Varuk and Freezing Hail, which I think makes sense. We're at the point in the game where like Freezing Hail, I think, is strong, but it's not. I don't think it's like really stifling what they can create as far as new cards go. So a lot of that's still going to be fine. And then Varuk obviously like has not even been a consideration. Like damage prevention is still strong even with Varuk in the format, and a lot of the fire decks just aren't even playing it. So unless you have like just really, we get to a weird point in the game where they have just insane prevention effects, it'd be the only time where it's really relevant. And even then, it would be good not because it's broken on its own, but because you need it to answer other broken cards. So it feels like that's a very safe removal from category 1 here. So
yeah, when it comes down to it, Freezing Hail is a card that if it was going to have an impact, it would have probably been like already when, maybe if Diana was really good and that card made it too hard for Diana to win. But Diana finds ways to fight through just about anything. And you can fight through Freezing Hail by just waiting a turn, which is like, a removal that everybody has access to. Varuk needs an answer, but also is an answer to an answer already. And yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. It's fine. Yep. It just kind of exists, and there are things you can run like Raise the Land if you really are worried about your opponent playing Varuk against you. But yeah, it doesn't need to be an issue.
Yep. Yeah. Now that answers have been printed for domains, or removal, I should say, have been printed for domains, it really just is not, I think, a problem card anymore. On top of that, like not being able to materialize cards while it's in play is a huge restriction, actually.
That's a restriction.
Yeah. That's tough. As we've learned over the past year, the materialization phase is probably the most impactful phase of the game, and where a lot of your game winning and losing decisions will be made. So
now Korhazi Outlook, I think that's a very apt addition, considering that we have now seen the success of Tristan. When Tristan is kind of cooking, and Korhazi Outlook basically says, you cannot interact with me this turn, with a lot of the prominent interaction that exists in the game.
Yep.
So just like the initial idea behind Varuk, it's a card that prevents interaction from working. So if the card has a shell where it is too oppressive because you can't interact with it and it's too consistent and everything, then that has the potential to move up. But for now, it's just like, it's really just like we're keeping an eye on you just in case Tristan starts to get too oppressive or something. And that's the easy kind of ban, just to make sure that you can still play around whatever Tristan's doing if they need to.
Yeah. I will say I'll be surprised if this moves up higher in the list. We've seen effects like this in similar games as well. And they just have not, they're like good for enabling combos and stuff. And like, that kind of like that's pretty much the main job of the card, right? But they're usually not the problem card itself. Like usually the problem is the combo is just too good already. So I would suspect like we'd see something else hit from Tristan if the deck really needed a ban. Like if you were seeing a bunch of different win decks and they were all playing Outlook, I guess not a bunch of them. It's a class bonus for Outlook to activate. But if we saw like a bunch of different kinds of Xander and Tristan lists just taking over the field, that's where I would suspect to see kind of Outlook probably being removed from the format. So
yeah, I agree. It's just kind of it's a point of caution really for weebs, but don't panic about this. Go ahead and play your Korhazi Outlooks, and I agree. I think it'll be fine.
Pick up foil ones even. They're like uncommons from FTC, so like they're not expensive.
I do have to say,
excellent way to start foiling out your deck.
I've gone through recently and bought a bunch of FTC foils because the price is just right on a lot of them. They're very, very cost effective, and they're nice to have. So I just buy them because foils. What's FTC is out of print. Like I don't know when we'd see more of it. And we know that weebs have just a whole bunch of sets of FTC that from the redemption program that they've held back. So rather than go through a whole printing process, if card prices started to, spike on FTC, they would probably just start releasing some of those sets at events or something to try and add more to the market. And they're not going to add foils back to the market. Right. So I'm like, little financial advice, I guess, from Dana. Buy some FTC foils.
Yeah. Yeah, if there's any, I would like, don't buy them to invest in them. Like, obviously, investing in trading cards is a horrible idea. But if you want to foil out your deck, or you just want some foils for your collection, excellent time to pick up some foils from FTC for sure.
I don't think they can't get much lower than they are, right? So I don't think it's one of those things. I basically say I don't think it's one of those things where you'll buy it and then go, oh man, it's so much cheaper like a month later. Like it's pretty much at the bottom. It's like where it's going to be.
Yes, exactly.
So if you like foils, it's a good time to get them.
Yeah, definitely. All right, next, Weebs has announced the next kind of double deck box they are releasing, similar to the Lorraine and Merlin and Sylvie and Parsnip ones I've done in the past. I'm really enjoying these products. Actually, I like that they're kind of fixing them up and releasing them with regularity. Mm-hmm. I think they're a really cool deck box. They're great for both storage and just like bringing decks to locals. And they're just really well made, so I'm excited to see them. And the next one is going to be a Tristan. I forget which level 3 art it is, but it's either Tristan Shadow Reaver or just Tristan's Shadow Dancer. That is the art on the inside of the box. And it's like a really bright red, almost blood red kind of like color. It looks really dope.
It's Tristan's hair color. It's sick.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yes. So that'll be releasing here at Anime Expo in LA. Is where it will debut, and then I'm sure it'll be available a bunch of different ways throughout the summer.
Yeah, usually these are available at multiple cons and through like a merch day later probably and stuff like that. So I don't think you need to panic and think I got to pick it up. I got to pick up a scalped one from Expo or something. You'll probably have a little bit of time. If you're going to anything like Gen Con or something, I bet they'll have some there.
Yep. Almost certainly be at like the Ascent store in Ascent Chicago as well. And yeah, you know, if you want it now, pick it up now. It's like they're excellent products and like totally worth paying an extra $20 or whatever you would normally pay for it. I would say if you really, really want it, but you're going to be safe waiting for it too. So
yeah, I'll be grabbing one for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then last thing on the news is they released the product sheet for Mortal Ambition. So as this podcast comes out, you're probably seeing pre-orders go up for that, which is really cool. This gave us a little bit more extra information into the set and kind of what is going on. So this is going to be another set where all 7 classes are supported. So yeah, everybody's going to get some new fun toys this set. Cards. One interesting thing is cards per pack is up. They've been increased from 12 to 15 cards per pack. So you can kind of speculate away as to what that might mean. We might see like another rare slot. I don't think that'll actually happen. More likely, we're adding another uncommon slot and maybe another like couple common slots and a dedicated. We already have a dedicated token slot, but it'll probably just be some kind of expansion like that and make uncommons maybe a little easier to acquire here.
I didn't consider the possibility that they would put another rare slot in though. That's a thing that does happen in a lot of TCGs now. Flesh and Blood is known for that. Flesh and Blood. Altered like TCG coming out has that too.
Yeah, like a lot of Bandai games I think do that, don't they? Maybe not.
No, Bandai games are typically, as far as I'm aware, I'm trying to think through, but Battle Spirits sometimes didn't even have a rare.
Oh, yeah, good stuff.
A rare slot. You maybe got a rare, you maybe just didn't get one at all.
Star Wars, it feels like you have 2 rare packs a lot because I think they have a dedicated like hyperspace slot, right?
It's possible to not get hyperspaces in packs too, but hyperspaces are common enough where you more frequently get 2 rares in a pack than in a lot of other games.
Yeah.
You have a foil slot that's dedicated, so you can actually, and there's another slot that can have a rare card in it. Technically a rare card, like a rare leader. So you can get like a lot of rares in a Star Wars Unlimited pack. You can still get 2 rares in a Grand Archive pack if you get a foil rare, of course. But,
yes. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting thing to speculate about. I have no idea. I agree. I think it's unlikely, but it's possible, and I wouldn't hate that because there really are a lot of cards in these sets, and it doesn't seem like it would suck to have more rares flowing in so that people can kind of get at least rare sets a little more easily.
Yeah. I don't know. I have been a fan of the rarity distribution so far. I think they nailed it with ALC. I think with Mercurial Heart, the Regalia got a little too short printed. but for the most part, the rest of it felt really good. So I'm hoping to see is they just kind of unshort print the regalia a little bit. I've been a fan of the one rare or SR UR per pack. I think it helps keep a little bit of value in those cards as well, because like a lot of them, even from like Dawn of Ashes and FTC, are just, I mean, FTC has so many other problems. Like that's hard to use that as a point of comparison. But Dawn of Ashes, right? A lot of those rares are just they're very dirt cheap at the moment.
Yeah.
Even with like prices spiking and stuff. So I wouldn't. I think I would prefer to see them just keep it at one rare per pack, just so that some of that value is still there, and you don't have to like spike on hitting a money card in order for your pack to be valuable in any way, shape, or form. So
yeah, I could see that.
Another uncommon slot would be very helpful, I think, though. Like having 2 uncommons per pack is rough.
I have just a weird suggestion, and I haven't thought this through like at all. I agree. Sorry, back up. I agree. Another uncommon slot wouldn't suck. My brain suddenly got on a different track. So, no, you're right though. Like uncommons are they're kind of tough. MRC only, because MRC was small packs too, so it only had 2 uncommons per pack. And
no, right? I think it was MRC. I think was they all only have 2 uncommons per pack. So DOA and FTC and ALC have all also only had 2 uncommons per pack.
Am I that oblivious? I just never paid attention to that.
That is correct. You are oblivious.
Okay, that's true. That's fair.
Yeah. Well, no, because they've all had 12 cards, and the ratio has just been however many uncommons or however many commons, 2 uncommons, rare slot, and then if you open up a foil or whatever, it takes the place of a common. But then the reason it feels a little different is because it was 20 pack boxes instead of 24 pack boxes in Mercurial Heart, but the pack size was the same.
I think I want to actually just pin a lot of this discussion for a future podcast. I think we should talk about like what we would like to see in distribution for packs. Like what options could be implemented in the future to improve? I know you really like the current distribution, but like in our wildest fantasies, how could we improve the game even further? It might be kind of fun to have a discussion. It wouldn't even have to be necessarily just about like pack contents, but it could be, I don't know.
Yeah. We can go anywhere we want with that, but that's not what we're talking about today.
No. I want to say one more thing, which is just that what if the extra slot is a dedicated regalia slot or something with its own rarity scheme? What if there's an extra slot for that?
Is pretty spicy, actually. That is, and that's something I could see them experimenting with here for sure. Like they've basically, since each set has had a different kind of like distribution for regalia, so that would be pretty sweet to see them kind of mess with that and see what that feels like as well.
Yeah. Can we talk about Mortal Ambition's new champions?
Yes. No, we can't, because first I have to tell you that they are bringing back CURs for Mortal Ambition.
Yes.
So yes. So we have our normal collector super rares, CSRs, which are signed and have the really cool foil texture treatments, and they're very dope. And then in first edition of DOA of Dawn of Ashes, we had CURs, collector ultra rares, which were, cool textured foiled signed cards, but then they were also serialized. They brought that back for Mercurial Heart with Tristan, and they're going to be doing that again with one card in Mortal Ambition as well, along with like 11 CSRs, I think it was. So
I like this. I'm a huge fan of this.
Yep. I like that they're not all CURs or all CSRs. I like just having the one. The one CUR is really cool.
The one thing where you can just pray that your box gives you that. It never will, but we exist on hopium in TCGs and gotcha games. Same thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for like 72 people in Mercurial Heart, their boxes did give them that, or will give them that in the future, because I don't think they've all been opened up yet. But so
interesting. The set is sold out, but at the distribution level. But yeah, there's certainly a bunch of boxes floating around that haven't been opened.
Yeah.
So if you see one,
I saw on in a conversation on Merlin's Marketplace that like 40 of them have been opened or something like that. So there's still more to open, but your box could have one. Don't let Dan dissuade you from opening cool product.
I think our league prizes are where are we? Ever since I hired the league manager for the and by hired I mean he I mean not paid. um I- he's getting compensated, but not through money. So through product and stuff. Just to be clear, we do not make the kind of money where I can fairly compensate him yet. But he volunteered and was excited to help. So anyway, I'm not a terrible person, I promise. But
Dan is
anyway,
out here exploiting everybody.
Taylor gets nothing for this too. It's worth. But yeah, we have on our Discord for our leagues, we have a league manager and our shipping bot, who is a person who likes to be called a bot, who take care of this stuff. And I believe I just heard that some stuff got shipped, but now I can't remember for sure because since they took over, I have been a little more distant from the leagues, and I don't know if the Grand Archive one ended or not. But all I was going to say before I got on this huge tangent was that we did get a Mercurial Heart box saved for the league prizes. And I really desperately hope that one of our league players opens up a CUR Tristan. That would be the coolest thing in the world.
That'd be very, very cool. Yep, I agree. But okay, yeah. So we'll talk about new champions. There are 2 new champions in Mortal Ambition. They each are going to get a new starter deck. Similar to the Dawn of Ashes and Alchemical Revolution starter decks. Very excited for these, actually. Both of these champions are like hype as heck. They are hitting a lot of the things I want them to hit. My only complaint is that there's no Crux on either of them, but that's
you'll be okay. I bet you'll be okay.
The rest of this is very cool. I'm very excited. So the first one is Jin, who is a warrior. His starter deck is going to have wind, and then his advanced element is Exia, which we have not seen yet. So who knows what that's going to be about, or what kind of cool stuff will go on there. And the second one is Kong Ming, who is a water mage, and her advanced element is Terra. And I'm very excited to play some Nayas with Kong Ming and have a really good time.
Kong Ming's character design is top tier.
It's very, very good.
The toppest tier.
Yeah. Yes.
Jin is cool too. I assume Exia is just going to be Crux 2.0, and it's going to be Exia is fine memes.
I don't know. Secretly, I'm hoping I can just take all of Jin's cool win cards and put them in my Lorraine deck. But Jin also looks very cool. I think Exia, I like the name Exia. It sounds fun.
Cool. It sounds cool.
I'm very excited to see what happens with that.
What color do you think the cards will be? The Exia cards?
Ooh, kind of like gold, maybe.
Oh, kind of like, Neos is
Neos is orange.
Neos is orange?
Yeah, I'm thinking like a really like striking kind of gold.
Neos is orange?
Neos is pretty.
I don't agree with that at all. I think Neos is very gold.
Watchers, is this gold or is this orange? This is like pretty orange.
Comment down below with gold or orange. We need to find out who's right here. I think it's gold. I was thinking
it's closer to like a bronze than a gold.
You're closer to a bronze than a gold. I think
if only.
It sounds like stuff bronze players would say. I think that it would be really cool if it was like a gray.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like a smoky kind of look or something.
Yeah.
I think that would be.
Or like silvery, something like that.
Yeah, silver. Yeah, silvery. Yeah, that would be. That'd be
very cool. Yep.
I want to point out to Kong Ming's advanced element is Terra, which is very exciting. As a recent SILVIE fan, I love Terra. I've really been enjoying the Terra options. I feel like Terra has some of the absolute best regalia in the game of any element. They're just nuts. I feel like every single one is just a stone cold banger. And some of those will actually be able to transfer into Kong Ming too. I'm thinking like Covenant of Thorns. The only class bonus on that is it costs 1 less. So you still have to pay 1 for Covenant of Thorns, but Covenant of Thorns can be so good that it's like, yeah, I'll pay 1.
I think that's still worth paying 1 for sure. I was looking at these the other day as well when this was announced, because I know there's like Verdant Scepter has Mage and Terra class or Tamer class. So it Kong Ming could potentially use
Kong
that
Ming
class
slimes.
Bonus.
Let's go.
If there's like a slime deck for Mage. But yeah, there's not like a ton of overlap actually. Like a lot of the Terra Regalia have like some pretty impactful class bonuses that are locked to Tamer.
But Covenant of Thorns, that's, I
Covenant
guess
of
really I
Thorns-
started this out. I just wanted to talk about Covenant of Thorns.
No, I mean, that's good. Crawl doesn't have any class bonus. So like if there's, and you know, Terracite obviously doesn't have a class bonus. So like those are both perfectly playable cards.
Yeah. Oh, it'd be really cool. I feel like it'd be really cool to have Kong Ming in our sort of our Eastern, like Three Kingdoms mythology style thing. Be able to play a big dragons too. Even if it's a Western style dragon, but it's
Well, I mean, that's the thing, right? So Himagaya's Grace also does not have a class bonus.
That's very true.
You know, you can cheat your crawls into play if you want to.
Yeah.
So like there's a lot of cool stuff. Also, Invoke Dominance is just, you know, potentially could see some play here.
You're really making me work hard with these card images and editing, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
I just wanted to put Covenant of Thorns up, but now I'm going to put all these cards.
I want to talk about, these are all like, we can't speculate about Exia other than just random baseless garbage because nobody knows what it is or does.
We can have a fun fight over what color Neos is.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't even talk about Exia. We talked about Neos.
Yeah.
But here we have, you know, we have some concrete information we can pretend to speculate off and know what we're talking about. So
I'm going to divert you from showing more pictures of cards just so I can say that I do think it's really funny that in these two new starter decks for Warrior and Mage, the Warrior one is wind. The Mage one is water, which is what Lorraine was before. So it's another Wind Warrior deck. The Mage one at least is water, except it's another Water Terra deck, which is the exact same two elements we had with the SILVIE deck in set one. So they're going to be totally different. Really, this is me just seeking weird patterns and feeling like I need to mention them on the podcast.
Well, I mean, I think it's fun because like it'll be interesting to see what Jin does differently than Lorraine. Like, where Lorraine is very weapon focused. I assume there'll be some of that from Jin, but maybe not quite so much. Or maybe, you know, maybe he just kind of does like other warrior things, like kind of buffing allies or something like that. So that'll be interesting. And then like, again, like Kong Ming, seeing how she plays differently from Rai, who focused very much on like levels and enlightened counters, like seeing, I could see her going more into levels than enlightened counters, especially with like the Terra stuff. So I'm excited to see kind of how they compare and contrast.
Yeah. And I think there's some interesting like potential seeds floating around in sets too. Like we've seen a weird number of like mage allies that attack for a high amount for some reason. And it's like never quite fully materialized into a deck because it's like, who wants to run a deck full of like blitz mages basically? But maybe there'll be a reason to now. Maybe there'll be the Terra is, you know, Terra has been an element so far that's been about putting allies out. It's been kind of the thing. So if they're interested in keeping Terra's identity and not just being like, here's a totally new set of Terra cards that do completely different things, then I would expect Kong Ming to be somewhat ally focused for a mage, potentially.
Yeah. She could be like, even like a cool, like battle mage or something like that. Like that could be fun. I don't know. I'm just thinking about how I can play like Naya with her and have them play well together. So
do you want to tell the audience about your Naya purchases?
I mean, I picked up like 3 Naya CSRs, but
I just really want everyone to also feel jealous with me.
Okay.
Because you held those out to me at locals last weekend, and I just about left the building with them. It was like this. I was this close because everyone I've talked to about this knows that Naya was I think is just my favorite art in Grand Archive. And oh man, those are really nice looking CSRs.
Well, I try to just keep my bragging a little bit more personal and just, you know, usually throw out to the world. So I just needed someone to I need a little camaraderie in this jealousy I'm festering over here. So yeah, that's fair.
Beautiful. But yeah, very excited for Mortal Ambition. Gonna be really sweet. The theme just looks so cool. Really pumped for that.
The images they've shown so far are like very hype. Lots of really cool designs going on. So
yep. Good, exciting time to be a Grand Archive fan. And speaking of exciting times to be a Grand Archive fan, Ascents are the most excitement that you have in Grand Archive, and we're going to be talking about
Yeah.
Ascent Taipei today, aren't we?
We sure are. But first, why don't you tell our listeners how they can help support the channel, Dan?
I really like this new back and forth that we do. It's fun. Yes, absolutely. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of Fleeting. Wrong
podcast.
Recollection Step. Brain, come on. Recollection Step. So far, oh my God, we do so many podcasts. Thank you so much for listening to this. If you enjoy listening to Recollection Step and all of our other podcasts like Fleeting Thoughts and etc., you can. I literally just there was one podcast left, and I
couldn't think of it.
I left it behind because we failed to record an episode last week. Galactic Ambition also. You can always support us by liking our videos, liking this podcast right now. You can just go click. It's totally free right down there. Go click that little like button. It helps us out a ton, more than you guys might realize, because the algorithm is a fickle mistress that we are constantly trying to please. And we're not good at pleasing our mistress sometimes, as we all can relate to. Someone needs to take me off of this podcast, actually.
Yeah, I think something's wrong with Dan. He needs a little bit of help.
You can also comment down below. Let us know what you think, especially if you think Neos is gold and not orange. You should leave a gold comment down below. And you can also buy your Grand Archive cards and other card game cards through TCG Player using our affiliate link, which is bit.ly/shoptcgs. That's bit.ly/shoptcgs. Link for that is down in the description below. Thank you so much for all of your support. Taylor definitely needs to take the reins here now. I need to just back off for a while. You can just listen to him talk. This is going to be like Taylor solo for the rest of the podcast. So go to town, Taylor.
Yeah. So Ascent Taipei happened this last weekend in Taipei, if you can imagine. Like we said at the beginning of the episode, it was the biggest Grand Archive tournament to date at, I think it was 236 players, excuse me. So just absolutely bonkers, by the way. Ton of players. Wait, hold up. No, that's not right. The Ascent Worlds was still larger.
How many were in Worlds?
We had 254.
Okay.
86 teams.
86 teams.
Yeah. 258. 258.
Math is hard. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Math is hard, but that's correct. Yes.
Yeah, my brain's not even mush and math is hard. So
why are you even listening to us? Neither of us know what we're saying. Or
we'll say it is the largest Grand Archive tournament in terms of the number of placements. Maybe that's the best way to put it.
Okay,
because there's
fair enough.
236 places, right? So,
yeah.
Okay. So that was cool. The meta is kind of insane. A lot of wind in the tournament, a lot of fire in the tournament. Not so much water. But some water.
A little bit of water. This was definitely Wind's time to shine. It's been a little bit, but there are some good Wind cards right now. Some breakout cards from the format. Some breakout champions from the format. Wind is eating really well right now. And Taylor, I'm sure that you and Maindeck team member Ash are probably both feeling very vindicated right now.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Honestly, I think had this not taken place in Taipei, I think fire would have just not been like, it might not have even been a thing in the tournament. There's some good fire builds, but so much of the field was Fire Merlin. And I think Fire Merlin's good, but I think a lot of people, at least like in the United States, have kind of moved on from that for a minute.
Well, yeah, I think that reminds me. So I'm trying to remember which event it was, but was it one of these regionals? I remember there being a Southeast Asian event, I thought, or maybe was it Oceania? Oceania was the one where Ascent Oceania were, or Nationals. Sorry, Nationals in Oceania. It was Merlin, Glenny Boy, of course, our champion. Yep. Who won Nationals there, and then Dragowill also was playing Merlin in the top 4. And I remember feeling like at the time that was like kind of oh wow, Merlin's like still is gaming right now. When a lot of the NA events had moved away from Merlin, like that, because that's right. So coming back to me now, my brain does work sometimes. This is after North American Nationals where Merlin was outside of Matt G's erupting deck, Merlin was nowhere to be seen in that top cut, and not even really close, if I remember right. I'm not looking that up now, but so it was surprising to see this kind of like, the other side of the pond. We have Merlin suddenly popping up like, nope, I'm still a thing. So it does, I do wonder. I think what you were kind of getting at there is if there's just a metagame. Every game that has an international has metagame differences across borders. And Merlin does seem to be more favored in in Southeast Asia, Oceania region than in NA, who wants to just, I don't know, hit things with allies or whatever a lot more often.
I think a lot of it too is like Merlin builds, like they're so flexible and you can build them to kind of answer a lot of different things, but you can't necessarily build them to answer everything at the same time. It turns out large fireballs are going to do a lot of damage and help you win a lot of games regardless of what else is in your deck. So if the rest of your deck is kind of like prepared to stomp a certain number of archetypes, you're going to be in pretty good shape. I don't expect we'll see Merlin completely go away anywhere in the near future.
Yeah, ever is a long time. It's tough to say something like ever, but
I mean, even moving forward, we've seen a lot of really strong lists starting to come out of Mercurial Heart. Obviously, both SILVIE and TRISTAN have numerous builds that are really good. You have a lot of ally builds that are still really powerful, and like Wind allies especially got a lot of boosts, where like they're going to compete a lot more with Merlin. And Rye is still a thing that Merlin has to worry about too, where Rye is just going to outspeed her most of the time. There's just a lot more forces now against Merlin than there have been in the past that all kind of compete at that same level. But I wouldn't say they've really surpassed her either. Like we have a lot of decks that are kind of at the same level, power level wise.
I think threat diversity is one of Merlin's greatest weaknesses too. The more different decks with different ways of winning the game come out. Like right now, Merlin has to prepare for TRISTAN, has to prepare for allies, which is a totally different style of preparation, has to prepare for Rye, which has different threats than TRISTAN does. Even if TRISTAN's going to push a giant attack, Rye is going to push different kinds of those. SILVIE, who's kind of a jack of all trades as far as like, is she going to hit you with big things? Is she going to blast you with storm slime? She's probably going to do both. This and other Merlin decks.
Merlin decks. Yep.
So
we've got like,
how do you prepare for all of that in one build? That's the challenge.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. It's tough to do. So I think like we'll still see plenty of Merlin moving forward. It's not going to be in the insane numbers that we saw in the past, just because, like you said, the threat diversification is really doing a number on her. But I think the Merlin players that correctly read a metagame and prepare correctly for that metagame are going to still do very, very well.
I think too. I already got rid of that tournament report from Nationals, but if I remember right, Luxem was not very present at Oceanic Nationals, I think.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, that is the case.
And Luxem can be a pretty tough match for Merlin to win. Not out of the question. We've seen a lot of different things happen at Worlds and everything to the best Luxem players in the world, but it's another one of those decks where that one is just, if it becomes present, which it is always liable to creep back up. I think the more people start playing wide ally style decks, like incremental damage is what I'm trying to say, like ally decks that are just going to deal damage throughout the game. Those are the ones that Luxem is good at dealing with versus ones that just go all in on a big end game, because Luxem can just heal the damage. But they can't when they just one shot you. But as long as, if those ever become popular, Luxem becomes popular again. When Luxem becomes popular, Merlin, I think, has a harder time finding those wins. Just part of an evolving, always changing. Evolving isn't the right term, because evolving sort of implicates that it becomes better or stronger over time. And it's really just shifting, right? The metagame is going to shift in and out throughout each season.
Yep. I think SILVIE's actually going to be in a similar spot to Merlin, where there's a number of different ways to build SILVIE. They're all kind of like slime based, and she all kind of like her, like her fireball is called Storm Slime. So like she kind of has the same thing where you just get to, eventually end the game. But like, again, there's certain threats you're going to prepare for better. Like Wind Sylvie plays a lot better into like ally based interaction than Fire Sylvie does, for instance. So,
but Fire Sylvie can just be more explosive towards that end game.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I think we're going to see a very similar path. There were a good number of Sylvies here. Well, actually, maybe I'm going to take that back.
Yeah,
I'm going to take that back.
I was honestly surprised. Like, this is let me do my slime analysis.
Yeah.
This is slime analysis with Dan.
Slimecast part 2.
It won't be the full Slimecast this time. Although I did get comments. People enjoyed the Slimecast, so take that, Taylor. So there are definitely a number of slime decks, and one thing that we haven't really talked about too much is that Spirit of Slime is not one that I've been covering on the channel, and I don't want people to think I was ever down on Spirit of Slime. It is simply less interesting to me to make a deck profile for, so I focused right away on and this, so that's like a pure content creator perspective. But the Spirit of Slime deck is kind of shift some Regalia deck cards in, a few main board cards. There are a few changes, a few things you do want to put in, but it's very largely just take the Recollection deck and kind of make a few swaps and then go to town, whereas the other decks had a little bit more going on under the hood. So they're a little more fun to do. That said, now we did see a few slime decks here. We saw a third place Spirit of Slime. And then going into day 2, we had a number of these that were high ranking. Actually, there was a Fire Slime that was high ranking, which was very similar to the build that we posted on the channel. So if you're looking for a good slime list and you don't want to bother finding one that actually plays somewhere, you can always just rely on my, somewhat tested build rather than the one that actually took 23rd place at an Ascent. I recommend you check that one out too, obviously. But that one's actually done something. But that list is fairly. Oh, I'm sorry. No, the fire one I was talking about is different. Oh my god, this one's wild. I thought this was the same one, but this Fire Slime deck is running 4 Geldis main and 4 Bedivere main and 2 Mechanical Hair.
Yeah, this thing is pretty wild. This is very cool list.
I take back what I was saying. This is there's 1 Terracite. That's
I like that a lot.
Fascinating.
Like if you're going really late game, Terracite is an awesome card, obviously, right? You're going to get to the point where your material deck is just dwindling. So getting an actual like draw out of it every single turn is obviously super, super good.
Okay.
Especially like this material deck is really good too, because there's so much utility in it. And then you've also got like Gaia's Blessing that you can activate on your turn instead of during your materialization phase. So like having Terracite to pull every single turn just seems very, very powerful.
Okay. I think this would become the Slimecast if we delved too much into this list. So I'm going to back off a little bit because this is a very interesting Sylvie list. Chong Huan, or I think Chong Huan or Chong Juan. I'm not sure how they wanted that to be pronounced, but huge props for this really innovative Sylvie list. I mean that earnestly. This is really cool. And I'm going to be studying this list and thinking about things based on that. That's very interesting. But okay, so we had the Fire Sylvie that I was looking at. I thought they day-2'd, but I guess they didn't. This is a very different Fire Sylvie.
Yeah, there was only 4 Sylvies in day 2. Actually, there was the one in top 8, another Spirit of Slime Sylvie, that Fire Sylvie list we were just talking about, and then there was another Wind Sylvie list.
Yep.
As well. Sunset
taking a list very similar to the Wind list we posted. A few differences though. Running Engineered Slime is another beast instead of like Academy guides. Running Verdant Slimes main instead of Vampiric Slimes. Otherwise, it's got a couple Scout the Lands too, and a couple Fairy Whispers. So looks like about 12 main board changes, and then the only sideboard change, they do Pause main instead of Boots, and they do Grand Crusader's Ring instead of Quicksilver Grail.
Yep. That's something I've been seeing out of Sylvie's. These 4 Sylvie lists here all have a couple copies of Engineered Slime. as another beast, and like the wind one win all 4, which I really like to see a lot in these Sylvie lists, to really enable that level 2 and get the second draw. Because like you have plenty of animals in these slime lists, but actually all your good slime beasts are like your advanced element slime, so you can't play them till you're level 3 anyway. So engineered slime just like sticks around and makes sure like you don't go down on cards too often when you are leveling up, which is kind of nice.
So my kind of, maybe it's a hot take on this, is that I find it's very easy to disrupt Sylvie's draw against a lot of decks, and I think a 2/2 is pretty tough to rely on to be able to get that draw, to the point where I'm not fully in on engineered slime. So you haven't seen any of my lists yet, and really I'm just trying to inform the audience of why I chose not to include it. But I ultimately decided that rather than putting the ally out and hoping to get a card back from it, I would just play a different card that I could hold and use as needed later, which puts me the same amount of cards, in hand. I don't have the ally on board. That's the difference. But I've found that you generally have enough of those, and it hasn't been something where I felt like I needed it. And I just rely instead on, like, sometimes you see green slime in the wind one, for example, and sometimes you don't. And it's okay. It's like, I don't need Sylvie level 2 to draw 2 cards, typically, because you get enough value once you get to 3 anyway. So that, I guess that's the route I took. And I think there are valid arguments for both sides.
Yeah, no, I agree. The thing I really like about it, especially in the wind list, is that like you're going to protect your slime regardless of which one they're attacking.
Yeah.
And in wind, especially, it's pretty easy to protect your allies like that.
Slime's Blessing is just huge.
Yeah, super good, right?
Wild.
Yes, and then once you're level 2, engineered slime is still attacking for 2 a turn. So like it's not like it's only there to draw a card. But I definitely see like the merits not playing it either, because like you said, like if you play it and it gets answered, like especially if you're on like the fire version, especially, I think is actually kind of tough to play engineered slime in, just because you have almost no protection for it.
Yeah, it's just gonna die.
Yeah. Before you can attack with it.
The hardest games is Sylvie. Are the ones where the opponent successfully controls your board the entire time.
Yep.
Those are simply the most challenging games, because you can't rely on getting those cards back at level 2, and you're not putting any pressure on the opponent because they're constantly keeping your board completely gone. So those are the games where you're getting to level 3 with like 3 cards in hand and then having to crawl back from there. And I just, like a 2/2 feels like it plays into that rather than you solving the problem at all.
Yep.
That said, I'm not the one who made day 2 with Sylvie, so what do I know? That's don't listen to me.
We also saw a lot of allies lists in the top 32 as well, which I don't think was unexpected at all. Allies are excellent deck kind of at the beginning of format here, where you just have a very consistent deck that's always going to do what you want it to do, and it's going to be aggressive and put a clock on your opponent too. So you're just going to take advantage of anybody who's trying kind of new stuff and stumbles a little bit, like they just haven't reached the consistency they want to yet. So
yeah, the thing we've talked about plenty, but it's early format, old reliable numbers. Yep. That's what does the trick.
Yes. And I mean, like, Wind Allies just got a ton of new tools, regardless of who your champion is. Lorraine got Andronica and a bunch of other cool automaton support. And Andronica is just like a nutty ally.
Yeah, she's good. Holy cow.
Like a 3/3 vigor for 3 is just bonkers. And then sometimes she also makes something else bigger. Like,
and I think that sometimes is a lot of the time in, like, for example, the winning list of Taipei. Yes. We want to talk about that a little bit, move into that discussion here.
Yep. Yeah. So like that is kind of your very similar to like Ascent Houston, where that was the first kind of major tournament of FTC format, and Wind Allies took that. Wind Allies took the first tournament of the Mercurial Heart format as well. It was a very similar looking list, actually. All of the kind of the same support. This winning list from Taipei is kind of lacking a lot of the large anthem effects like Inspiring Call or Banner Knights, and instead just has a lot of really solid allies and a little bit of protection for them and some good interaction. But this is another Wind Lorraine list. It's got the Gildas as you expect. It's got Ascent Protector in here. One interesting thing is there's no squirrels to kind of enable that, which I really like. Squirrels is one of my least favorite cards. It turns on Ascent Protector so well, but it is just like, it's something you really don't want to play if you don't have to, just because it dies to everything. But you get a huge upgrade now in Andronica, who is like
Ascent Protector Andronica's gross.
It's insane. It's so good. Like if you have a Shimmer Cloak Assassin or Shimmer Cloak Assassin out, you play an Andronica, you make that assassin a 3/3, you attack with Andronica, and then you can play Ascent and bounce Andronica to your hand to replay next turn and make Shimmer Cloak even larger. And so you just have this 3/3 plus stealth unit that is really difficult to take care of.
I'm not sure we've actually said the effect of Andronica yet for our audio listeners.
We have not.
So we've just kind of danced around it. But so I'll go through it really quick. But Andronica is a 3-cost unique ally warrior automaton, 1 power, 1 health with imbue 3. So you do need to run enough wind stuff to get the like full effect from her. As long as she's imbued, she gets +1/+1. She becomes a 2/2 for 3 while she's imbued. And has vigor as well. So she's base a 2/2 vigor if you imbue her when you play her, and then has class bonus on enter. Put a buff counter on up to 2 automaton allies you control, and again she is an automaton, so that's where at minimum if you imbue her, she's a 3-cost 3/3 with vigor, which blows every other ally stat wise out of the water. Mm-hmm. And then also if you have another automaton, puts a buff counter on it. So that's where Taylor's line is really wild, and bouncing her with Ascent Protector is really powerful.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like she's just so powerful. Like she really turns these ally lists on their head quite a bit, because they were all kind of just built on the consistency of 2/3 allies for 3, and having an ally that can come down, take out a 2/3 without repercussion, and then also take out another 2/3 on defense. Like if your opponent attacks into Andronica to try and remove her, like is just so insane. Like they just can't remove her safely with just allies. They need some sort of other interaction, like a Dream Fairy or some sort of removal spell or something, because she retaliates super well. And then this list is also playing an Armored Valkyrie, or 4 of them actually, which is a 2/2 for 3 automaton with Steadfast, which means it can retaliate while it's rested. So if you have one of those out and then you play an Andronica afterward, you now have 2 3/3s that can just very easily, or that get to retaliate into whatever your opponent attacks into them, which is insanely strong. Like I think it just has to turn the ally mirrors on their head.
It's a lot. It's a lot to have to deal with. And I want to also add, there's a couple other like really good. I guess we could probably talk a while about these, but I'm just going to briefly go over a couple new MRC cards that I think really did a lot of work here. Eternal Magistrate is all over these lists right now. Eternal Magistrate is a 2-cost 1/3 with imbue 2. So again, lots of win cards needed, but as long as Eternal Magistrate is imbued, cards can't leave your opponent's material decks unless it's their materialized phase, which just means that it doesn't just mean this, but it means that Dungeon Guide is not going to be very good. Beseech the Winds I remember the name this time, is not going to be very good.
Incarnate Majesty,
not great. Diana's, materialized phase. You can still, so it's like if you go to Lorraine 1 during your materialized phase, or go to Diana 2 during your materialized phase, that's going to be work. But Diana's lineage release has to be done in response to something in the materialized phase in order for it to actually get a gun out. There are a number of little things. The new one, Tristan's new dagger.
Shadow's Claw.
Shadow's Claw is one that is typically activated, as is Gaia's Blessing in the slime decks. So
Verrucken's Soul Knife and Mercenary Dagger as well, out of the new Fire Assassin builds.
So this Eternal Magistrate is out here kind of just blocking a lot of shenanigans from happening as a 1/3 for 2 that then is an automaton, can be buffed with Andronica, is being played in Wind. Well, guess what Wind's good at doing? Stuff not dying. Deflecting Edge is in this deck, a couple copies as well. Similarly, Stifling Trap, I think, has had a pretty good run so far.
Stifling Trap is insane. Yes.
Stifling Trap, 2-cost, fast speed action. Class bonus for assassins. So it's not even, I mean, it's not useful here, but in the assassin build, it's even better, where you can remove 2 prep counters from your champion to activate it from your memory without paying its cost. So you can have no cards in hand and just go unprep 2 and then stifle your thing. And it does deal 2 damage to target ally, then negate all on-enter triggers from that ally. Again, anti-dungeon guide, anti-dream fairy. Taylor, you were just talking about how dream fairy is the easy way potentially to deal with stuff like Andronica or Valkyrie. Not when they have trap in hand.
Or in memory. Well, I guess in this case, not memory.
Assassins, though. Assassins can get you from memory with it.
There were some Win Xander allies lists as well that utilize Stifling Trap extremely well. So
yeah. And Stifling Trap, also an answer to Storm Slime. We did go over in the deck profile that there is counterplay to this. So I just in case you didn't watch that deck profile, but just a minor rules thing to mention, but Stifling Trap says deal 2 damage to target ally, then negate all on-enter triggers from that ally. So it has one target, which is the thing it deals damage to. And if you reclaim or escape the wreckage, your Storm Slime, in response to the Stifling Trap, the Stifling Trap will have no more targets and it will fizzle as per the rules of the game entirely, meaning that the on-enter trigger will now go off instead of being negated. So for my, I'm watching the back of our slime fans out there, because this will hurt Storm Slime unless you're prepared. And that's the important thing.
Well, so even beyond Storm Slime and Sylvie, like this helps you play a dungeon guide as well and still get the effect, right? Like if you have a way to get your dungeon guide off the field, this can make sure that you still get to level up through Stifling Trap as well. So it's super important.
The fact is, though, that's just, it's a lot to go through. And also, when you have to do a dungeon guide, you usually have to then play something else on top of the dungeon guide and potentially lose more important cards before the dungeon guide's effect is resolved, to banish 2 cards at random. So it's, but a lot of just powerful kind of anti-popular card stuff showed up in Wind in MRC. Yep. And this is such a good, I think this is actually like the perfect first Ascent champion after MRC, just showing, like here's a good old strategy, but also here's how automatons are good, which were the new thing in MRC. People are like, I don't know how good automatons are going to be. They're good, is the answer. Here's some of the new tech and how effective it is at kind of disrupting the old guard of decks we were seeing. And also, what's more fitting in Grand Archive than Lorraine winning?
Exactly.
That's just how it goes.
Dan, though, I'm surprised you didn't point this out to other people as well, to our listeners.
I've been waiting for this one. This is what I'm pretty sure you're going to talk about it. I've been sandbagging it to the very end.
Oh, okay. Well,
go ahead. Take it.
No. I want to give you credit where it's due then. Excellent work here.
Okay.
Great work sandbagging this, because this is my favorite part of the whole deck.
Yes.
Is that not only does Lorraine get you a sword on level 1, she could also get you a gun on level 1.
It says materialize a weapon card. I had to reread her after I looked at this list. I was like, oh no, it doesn't say sword. It just says weapon.
It does not say sword. It says weapon card. From your, with weapon, or materialize a weapon card with memory cost 0 from your material deck. And so this list has a prototype pistol in there, which is a 1/3 gun for 0, with no other effects as far as Lorraine is concerned. And then she's also running the new Wind Bullet from Mercurial Heart, Wind Piercer, which is a 0-cost bullet with 1 power. But on attack, it has Glimpse 1. Glimpse 1.
Yep.
Then you reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a Wind card, Wind Piercer gets +2 power. So with Prototype Pistol and revealing a Wind card, Lorraine attacks for 4 with this thing. And she can do it 3 times with Prototype Pistol's 3 durability, and she gets the gun for free on her level 1. It's just absolutely bonkers. That's so much power for one materialization phase, because she's got to take 1 to get the Wind Piercer out. So it's just, you're hitting for 4 out of nowhere.
This is the nothing. Innovation. This is what this is what we love to see in this game. The fact that Lorraine can hasn't had Wind Piercer, right? This is the most damage she's been able to dish with this, but Lorraine is playing this ally deck. This is a Gildas ally deck too. Like, we've got Gildas in there. And anytime you got a Gildas ally deck, one thing you're thinking about is you're just thinking about your numbers every turn. You are able to keep to a 7-card hand, which gives you perfect balance by playing 3 drops every turn. If you never play 2 cards, or you never pay a card to materialize something. So you're often thinking about, in what ways can I keep playing 0 cost cards, or in what ways can I draw additional cards if I'm going to try and play 2 things in a turn. And you kind of want to have both of those available, and this deck does both well. This deck got rid of the baubles that are typically seen in these ally decks and replaced them with 2 new 0 cost things. The pistol, which you will often, I think, get on her on enter, although the swords she still runs swords as well. But then the Wind Piercer, the bullet with renewable, every single turn, you can materialize that. So you play 1 thing to keep your balance, attack with the Gildas, and then you Wind Piercer with your pistol up to 3 times. 3 durability on that bad boy.
And it's insane.
And you get to deal, if you have Gildas out, that's 8 damage a turn for 3 turns. I mean, that's the game. That's it. It didn't matter what else you did, and you did other things too.
Yep.
That's so crazy to me.
One other card that really enables this as well is Backup Charger. Like, that helps you get the baubles out of your material deck as well. This is a new card from Mercurial Heart, 0 cost. It's a regalia item. You pay 3, banish Backup Charger, summon a Power Cell token rested, and draw a card into your memory. So this is kind of like 3 baubles in 1. Like, it's your second GCR essentially for these ally decks. But now, instead of 3 baubles, you have Backup Charger, Prototype Pistol, Wind Piercer, and just have a lot of extra power. Wind Piercer actually too is just insane, because not only is it like 4 power, just a ton to hit allies with, like to really help control the ally mirrors. Like 4 power each turn is also just a really good clock against decks like Merlin and Rye and things that are going to try and just race you and go over the top of you too. Like this helps you put pressure on with allies and with Lorraine. So just like it's God, yeah, like there's just excellent innovation here. It's so good.
Yeah, I love it. Really great deck. Really, really well-deserved win for MHL, who I don't know their actual name, but MHL did incredible. So congratulations on the Ascent win. Well-deserved with that deck, beating
very much
true champion Cabin into the victory spot.
Yep. And I think had MHL not taking that one home, I think True Champion Cabin and the whole True Champion Gaming team probably would have had the deck of the tournament with their Wind Umbra Tristan list. One of the really neat things about it is that a lot of the Tristan lists I've seen so far and the ones I've been brewing have all had like a fair amount of Umbra cards. This is kind of has almost a Diana feel, where the only Umbra cards are 4 Shadow Strike, just to finish your opponent off. And the rest of this almost kind of looks like a Wind allies list. It's not quite the same. Like there's a bit more interaction here, but there's just a lot of Wind cards and a lot of allies that do a lot of really cool things.
I'd say my biggest takeaway from this is that they were not afraid to split between automatons and humans. And I think a lot of our discussion has been like, do you run automatons? Do you run humans? Like, can you run both? And the answer is, yeah, you can run both. And apparently it's pretty effective to do it that way.
Yes.
So, you have Korhazi Outlook and Sadie, along with Sable Remnant and Sirocco Operative and Shimmercloak Assassin, and Windmill Engineer too. Another 4 of, I noticed that basically they put as many allies as they could, more or less, that say, when you play this, you're going to like get a card back or whatever. Right. So, it's kind of just it's a sort of a tried and true strategy, right? It's just, we're going to put allies down, we're going to accrue value, and then we're going to close the game out. And it's just going to generally work.
It feels very similar to like Wind Crux lists, where instead of like Tactful Sergeant and Swift Recruits, you've got Sable Remnants and Windmill Engineers.
Which isn't too surprising, given that's sort of what TCG is known for.
They came up with the Wind Crux list that has been popularized since U.S. Nationals. So they're
arguably the most skilled team at this particular deck. So it doesn't surprise me at all that they took the new Tristan and found, here's a way to take this strategy and apply it with a whole bunch of new kind of benefits, things like class bonus, Incapacitate available, Shadow Strike, just being able to kind of get through anything. And also, they got to play Tristan Shadow Reaver in here too, which is a sweet card that a lot of people were kind of avoiding that side of Tristan, I think. And I appreciate that they got to show people the power of being able to have 2 level 3s.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, for the low cost of 1 material deck slot, you get a card that is extremely good in grindy matchups. Like Shadow Reaver is pretty much what you want to play for your first level 3 in your Merlin matchups. Also, probably it's really good in your Luxem matchups. There were not actually, quick aside, just there's only one Luxem deck in the top 32. It doesn't seem like they were very well represented in this tournament. And in general, the format feels very hostile. I think Sylvie's quite good against Luxem, especially the Fire Sylvie builds and the Norm Sylvie builds. And I think these Wind Tristan lists are going to give them a lot of trouble as well. Also, I think these new Wind Ally lists with Wind Piercer just put out a ton of damage really quickly, and where I don't know if Xander can really keep up. Like, you need to see a lot of your Vanish from sites really early in order to really survive late into the game there. So I think in general the format's just pretty hostile, but this Wind Tristan list is just a work of art, I would say.
Yeah, it's great. Props to, of course, True Champion Gaming as well. And just a quick mention of some of the other things that are in here. We did have a nice Firecrux hybrid. We love at Maindeck seeing the hybrid lists being played, just close to our hearts here. This is the full Monty hybrid from Egg. Lorraine 2, Merlin 2, Lorraine 3, Merlin 3, like everything. It's just all in there. The list is almost not an MRC list. It just has reprogram in seeing play over something potentially like Fast Cure, Exercise Curses that was seeing played in the floating, sort of this open floating memory slots in this deck before, but it's a full just prismatic list with some prismatic floating memory cards. I think the thing that interests me the most about this list is that these floating memory spells are certainly something where I would be thinking about Retold Fortune in here. And I wonder if Egg tested that and decided it was a little clunky and hybrid because it's a mage class bonus to get the floating memory from it or something. But it's something I would be, thinking about, I think, with this list too.
I've noticed in Fire specifically, it doesn't play quite as well in like Wind or Water Merlin, just because a lot of your your Fire spells, very few of them actually have floating memory.
Yeah.
Like they're not playing Ignite the Soul at all, right? And then they're not playing any Fast Cures or Exercise Curses either. So you don't have those for spells. So the only 4 spells in here with floating memory you can discard to Retold Fortune is Chilling Touch and Scatter Essence, those two of each. Which, is fine, but you kind of want to keep them in your hand anyway. Like, you don't really want to pitch a Creative Shock to a Retold Fortune. You don't really care to pitch.
That would feel really weird.
Yeah, you don't want to pitch a Fireball. You don't want to pitch a Spirit Blade Ascension. You don't want to pitch an Incarnate Majesty.
You can Cruxite the Majesty, actually. That's not
you can get those both back with Cruxite. And actually, I mean, that is like a pretty decent play. But at that point in the game too, I think you would rather be doing some more high impact stuff, like just, playing the Ascension and then Cruxiting it back, right? So
yeah, sure.
I from what I've seen so far, it doesn't play quite as well. If you're looking to Retold Fortune, I would look into either Water or Fire or Water or Wind Merlin, or maybe even try and get spicy with Rye and see what's going on.
I've thought about that. I tried to see what was going on, and then I was way too lost in the sauce when Mana Weaver was back in the list, and then I was like, I'm gonna build Sylvie again. I'm not cut out for this gig.
But yeah, no, this hybrid list is sweet. There is a Water Nico list at 11th place that Asu took down that placement with, which is pretty cool, showing off the power of Icebound Slam and Ravishing Finale, 2 really powerful new attack cards from Mercurial Heart. Let's see. The Wind Xander allies lists are very cool as well. Getting to run Incapacitate just as a sweet 2 reserve negate. We love to see that. Actually, the Pro-An took 6th with Wind Xander allies, and I was also playing 1 copy of Diablerie. Diablerie, thank you.
We're going to do this for the rest of our lives, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Yes.
That's so funny though. The Miser Diablerie. I love that so much. You never expect that from non-Vanitas. Like,
oh yeah,
actually, that is my Grand Crusaders ring.
Let's see. We saw some Fire Xander running around too, which I really like to see. Fire Xander got some really good upgrades this set. Like the Mercenaries Blade that we talked about, Captivating Cutthroat, which is a 2/1 for 2, but with class bonus it becomes a 3/1 and also has on attack deal 1 damage to your champion, but like you're attacking for 3, so who cares? And they also get to play Sable Remnant really well too, helping kind of the class bonuses for the power this time instead of Floating Memory, unlike Kingdom Informant. So you actually get to play Sable Remnant and feel pretty good about it. Like Kingdom Informant always kind of felt off to me in Xander because you really only want the Floating Memory to get to level 1. And so Kingdom Informant just doesn't do that job very well. But Sable Remnant not only gets you to level 1 really well, but it also attacks for 2 once you're there. So it's just good on both sides of the level.
I like
a lot
this
of cool stuff going on here.
LI 494's list that runs a lot of floating memory. It's very floating memory. Like, I think kind of respecting the power of Deft Executor, and just going to take advantage of playing fire and having access to Cremation Ritual. It's sweet.
Well, yeah, and like playing something like Stalwart Shieldmate in order to give your Cutthroat another turn to attack for another 3. Also protects like Arthur's pretty well too in the late game. Or mid game, I should say. Fire Xander doesn't necessarily have a late game.
The Innervate Fury, I think, is really cool tech in here too. Getting to go down from Deft Executor. I don't know how often they do this, but you have the potential to go down from Deft Executor to clear the board, heal up, and then use that floating memory again, or just level raw again to get set up again, pull back Rending Flames and get another prep counter or something to be able to try and do another big
explosive
attack.
Back.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
A lot of really neat stuff.
I mean, there are, I think, a lot of lists here. Were there any others that you wanted? I think we covered all the ones you wanted to talk.
We covered all of them. There is a really cool one at 25th. Asnat plays 25th with this list, which on its face looks just kind of like a normal Lorraine Allies list. Pre-gun innovation, but this list also has it's running Mercurial Heart as its divine relic.
We love it. Yes,
it's also running 3 copies of Overlord Mark III as just an insane finisher for these ally decks, especially with all the cool new automatons that Warrior got, and allies in general got. You're going to load the graveyard up with these things. You're going to make some power cells with Manufacture Cell, with Mercurial Heart, with Backup Charger, and then you're going to play this Overlord Mark III in the late game as a 5/5 that just gets bigger and draws you cards. So that to me was kind of the standout, was that somebody succeeded with that card so early into the format. I thought it was going to take a little bit more time to make that work, but it turns out one of the best ways to play it is just, you don't need to race to it. You can just play it, as a finisher, and it works very well there.
It's a very hard card to deal with. A 4-cost 5/5. As additional cost to activate it, sacrifice 4 power cells. So that's where you need to be playing enough power cell generation to make it work. Of course, Mercurial Heart is a power cell, so you have access to that, as well as Backup Charger in your material deck. So it's actually already half of the cost. You just need to find 2 more power cells. So every game, you have, because of Grand Archive's material deck, you have access to the ability to find these. At least half of this cost. And then when you get him down, he's a 5/5, Intercept, Spell Shroud, Steadfast, True Sight. It's just it's a buffet of abilities. That means your opponent can't use spells to target him to get rid of him. They have to basically attack into him. I mean, Dream Fairy is the answer. Of course, we're Wind. We've got Stifling Traps in the sideboard here. I would consider it a main, but it's probably a pretty tight deck list, so I'm sure there's a good reason they're in the side.
Zephyr.
Zephyr is a spell, so Spell Shroud will stop it.
Is it from? Does it? No. I mean, you play your own. You can target him with your own Zephyr, right?
Oh, Zephyr, your own thing in response.
Yeah, in response to the Dream Fairy. Yes.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood that. Yeah. You can just Zephyr him. I believe that's true. Or reclaim him back, and I mean, reclaiming him kind of sucks, but because you'd have to activate him again.
Yep.
Or just if it's a damage based spell, we still have favorable wins in here. But otherwise, if you don't have a cool trick, you have to attack into him. And every time you attack, he's steadfast. So he just retaliates what is ultimately going to be 6 damage onto them because he's a 5/5, but he also has, at the beginning of your end phase, you may banish an automaton card from your graveyard. If you do, put a buff counter on him and draw a card. So he replaces himself immediately. Even if your opponent goes through all the hoops to get rid of him, you're not even down a card. And if they have to attack into him, they might as well just concede the game to you because you're going to kill any ally that attacks into this that isn't named the Majestic Spirit, basically. And
the Majestic Spirit doesn't even kill it.
And yeah, Majestic Spirit's only part of it. And if they attack with their champion, it just deals 6 back to them.
Yep. Quick correction.
Okay.
Spell Shroud is targeted by all spell sources.
Oh, it's all spell sources. Okay.
Not just spell sources your opponent's control. So I was wrong about the Zephyr play. That won't save your Mecha Daddy from a Dream Fairy, but there's plenty of other things that will. So we don't need to worry about it.
We were just making sure we continue the tradition of lying on the Recollection Step podcast.
Exactly.
That's just how it goes.
We're all about spreading misinformation. So
we'll just wait till Sildar tweets about the wrong information. Spell Shroud is all spells.
Yeah.
We corrected it. It's okay.
Still, you needed like 30 more seconds. Just listen for 30 more seconds and you would have been fine.
Okay, but yeah, no, good point. Good point out. That's a really cool deck, and I'm excited for more Overlord brews. I kind of want to start brewing some myself too.
Yep.
Overall, I believe Ascent Taipei really showed some of the best of Grand Archive. As usual, exciting format, exciting game. Very, very big pull ahead from Wind in this one. Water definitely falling behind right now. We'll see if that changes, if people can find the water sauce in the future events.
So I do want to say that the water didn't fall behind because of lack of conversion. It fell behind just lack of representation.
Yeah.
The water decks that did show up converted very well.
Okay. Yeah, so that's a great point to make too.
I think water definitely has a place in the meta currently. Just, be brave. Don't be afraid to bring a water deck. So
I love that.
A lot of really powerful things happening with water at the moment.
It's, I think, across the board, as we see, just lots and lots of options in Grand Archive.
Yep. Very much so. But yeah, I think that about does it here for us listeners. So thanks for coming along on this journey to Taipei with us. Metaphorically, of course, unfortunately. Yeah, that would have been a lot of fun to actually go to Taipei. That would have been sweet.
So sick.
I mean, there were a number of True Champion Gaming showed up. Sean, World's competitor Sean showed up as well.
And 10th place.
10th place.
Kind of a heartbreaker, but missed the last win to get there.
Yep. So, has some good NA representation there as well. So I'm glad somebody was there to show up and do us proud. But yeah, that about does it for us here this week. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. If you're on YouTube, you can, find us wherever you get your podcasts, but we'll be back in 2 weeks. We'll be talking about something cool, something Grand Archive related. We're not sure what it is yet. We got some time to figure that out.
Plenty of time.
Yes. We'll have a regional in the books at that point, so we probably won't be talking about meta too much. But we'll talk about something awesome that's Grand Archive related. So again, thank you very much for listening, and have a good one. And this has been the Recollection Step. So we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye, everyone.